Okay, and we're back. Hello, and welcome to the stream. I think we're gonna do probably one more playthrough in this session. I think we're gonna go right into MapCollector's course because his is next up. If I can grab the name. There we go. Hi, Map. It's perfect. Alright. There we go. That's more like it. 8,000 yards. I'm getting a lot of these like 69, 7,100 yard courses. Like we need a proper ass kicker occasionally. I've been shocked at how few of the courses in this contest have touched 8,000, and I thought that was going to be average on this course. Or in this contest. Let's see. But I'll have to do like a average course length. I'd be curious to get the stats for that. Well, like first thoughts for me, this course, or like visually, this feels very empty. Are these tee boxes flat? They feel very angled downward to me, which is kind of an odd choice, I think. Not that tee boxes are ever perfectly flat, but these also feel like they're canted off at a substantial angle. And I'm teeing off from, I'm assuming it's like a practice green of some kind? I don't know. It feels like, and this would be a huge practice green. It feels like a kind of an odd choice. Oh, I guess this is the clubhouse. I was about to say, where are we? Like, where are we starting from? The sightlines are a bit messed up from the tips, though. Which, I mean, you could kind of argue they still are. But there's no like, for me, these are hidden from view anyways. Like, you can flatten these boxes out without issue. There's no reason that they need to be canted down. And like if the front tee boxes, for me, if they're a sightline issue, well, that means you need to adjust the heights of your, like, the land around your tee boxes and stuff. I'm curious what the story behind the planting is. It feels very sparse to me. Like, again, there's not a lot going on here in terms of planting, which is, not the end of the world for a Parkland course. Like, I think there's ways to make a very, like, sort of empty internal plot work. Like, see any Tanner course ever made. Of how to, like, make something not have a lot in it without it feeling empty. Like, he's had courses that have zero planting on it that look fantastic. And then this is just, I'm not sure what the planting's doing, to be fair. And this is another hole where, like, for me, like, what's this doing? I don't understand what this fairway is for. I mean, obviously it's like that's kind of your layup spot, but it's one of those where there's just a whole bunch of nothing here, essentially. Like, there's no feature, there's no reason why this couldn't or shouldn't, like, all be fairway up to, like, kind of like this point here. You can have it divided, but there's no reason for your fairway to go all the way over here and then there to just be all of this nothing. Like, it feels like this hole's not using its corridor at all, and it's a little awkward and clunky, if I'm being honest. It was going to be sparse, you also ran into time issues. That would make sense. I want to say, is this your first course after, or no, you were in the meme team contest. So you've done one more since whatever that kind of Rossish course that I played. But I get, like, kind of a similar vibe in terms of, like, or like a similar issue on this one as, it's not as bad, but it uses a lot of space, and then it struggles to fill all of the space, if that makes sense. I get a little bit of that same problem kind of still happening, where a lot of the playing corridors are very wide, and then there's just nothing in them, so it feels very empty. There are holes that are closer together, so there's definitely like, what do you want to call it? Like, there's an attempt to fix that, like, or like, you know, you're it's something you're working on, but it also, there's still tons of like spots that just feel really open, and or I guess open's not the problem, empty is the problem, which are kind of two different things for me. Because you can have something open without it feeling empty, and this kind of just feels empty to me. We have the can. I like the camera on top of the tower. That's nice. You got a little you know, wall sticking out there, kind of a little bit there as well. You can, you know, maybe a little touch up on the sculpting would work. But like, I don't dislike it as a feature kind of to play along. It's a, you know, a fun little choice. If you're gonna toss a big kind of ruined castle, then, you know, featuring that in kind of the course is nice. Or at least, like, again, like, here's a feature that justifies why your like hole is kind of shaped the way it is. So, you know, like, props with that. It's a little, like, again, I think you could do, I don't know what I would do with it, but again, it feels like you could put a little bit of rocks in it, or some kind of planting, some bushes, just something. Also, it feels maybe a little severe. I mean, it's a huge cliff on kind of what's otherwise like I wouldn't say it's a tame plot, but it doesn't feel like it almost feels like a fantasy-sized cliff on what's kind of otherwise a Parklandy course. It's kind of a transatlantic theme or something. I don't know what that means, to be honest. Uh, or in terms of like the plot, I guess. I don't know. I'm talking and not really comprehending my own points at this point. I'm just talking. Well, it's certainly hard enough so far, which I didn't think was ever going to be an issue for a course that you make, because like, you're certainly good at making stuff hard. So that was always the difficulty being in the window was never going to be a problem. It was just kind of, it was always the question was always going to be kind of the rest of the golf stuff. Putting a castle on a course that looks like an American sand dunes course. Oh, okay, I gotcha. That's what you meant. Yeah, again, it's there's just it's really missing a lot in terms of visuals. The screen's very small for what this hole is. Especially when, you know, it's the... Oh, well, there's a shot. We're gonna have a kick and eagle? Yes, please. That one's kind of an odd hole, if I'm being honest. Actually, this one's also a very odd hole. Like, I'm not... Like, yeah, this is a little tough, if I'm being honest. It's a very goofy tee shot. Like, I don't object to kind of the idea of a split fairway, but like, it's like, it visually it feels like it's a little 3-foot mound, and then both fairways are very narrow. It's just like it looks visually odd, and it results in an odd tee shot, which isn't so much hard as it's just weird, I guess. Also, I find it funny, like, the crowds being around, and then there's like 6 people. Like, every detail about this course feels like kind of sparse. It's like nothing's outright bad, but it feels like it feels kind of alien, if that makes sense. It's like there's just something off here because there's a lot of nothing. All of the things that you'd expect here exist, but they exist in tiny quantities all spread out all over the place. So the environment never really like clicks. At least not for me. This one's a different fairway. Yeah, I don't really know what to make of this hole. It's just a little strange. I mean, I guess like this is sloped enough where it's like is this kind of a sucker play? Is there any reason that you'd hit at that? Or do you just rip like it's a short hole that's not drivable and then like all of the slightly aggressive options are really tough. So is there any reason why I wouldn't just hit it to the 120-yard wide part and then hit a wedge at the well, if I could hit a wedge, I would hit a wedge at the flag. Like, it feels like the play. Not unless you can get into pitch range. I guess like if you're playing for plat specific stuff, like, maybe this hole makes sense, but me approaching it from just kind of like a general golf perspective, this hole doesn't make any sense to me. Again, and you're probably yeah. This is another one of like, is this tee box canted? It just again it feels off. Like there's something wrong with this box. Like visually, it feels weird. I think it's just not flat. And there's also absolutely nothing between you and the hole. Like again, it's like some front boxes would make sense and would break that area up a little bit. Am I gonna make a 2 here? Oh god, I just hit a bad putt. For a course that doesn't feel that easy, I'm putting some surprisingly good numbers together. Again, this one's again, it's just odd to me because it feels like it has all of the like really narrow awkwardness of a plat course, but without like necessarily the difficulty of said plat course. So it feels off. You know, and like it's the well, it's not that hard, so why can't I have like width anywhere? You think the front nine is easier? Okay. Well, that would make some sense. I would say that bunker probably needs a little bit of sculpting work. Like, you know, framing wise, stuff's in places that make sense, but again, I'm not like golf wise, I'm just like, I'm not quite sure what's happening on any of these shots. And again, maybe it's just me being obtuse, but it's kind of like there's not really any like. Usually with um, with a great golf course, like the decisions you're making are obvious. Like, oh well, that's the aggressive line, or you know, like it's kind of the whole like, oh, like I want to be over here, so in order to have a good line, I have to play closer to that hazard kind of stuff. Whereas I look at this course and just be like I don't know what it wants me to do or like what the correct thing to do is. I'm just kind of hitting shots because I just don't know what's happening on it. It's the like I'm just sort of hitting it and then figuring out where the hell I'm going afterwards, and then I hit it again. Is that stand flying? I think that stands flying. Yeah, that's just a little. Yeah, we could like that could be a little touched up there. It's kind of a couple feet off the ground. Hang in there. Are you winning, son? I think so. I'm under par, shockingly. Yeah, I don't know why this needs to be fairway because there's no way for, like, it's not usable or mowable in any way. It's at like a 45-degree incline. Like, this slope feels very, like, I like the idea of it, but the execution of it is very comical, if I'm, being honest. Didn't submit to TGC yet and have touched up some technical stuff. Okay. I hit the stick. Oh, stay. Oh, that was not great. I needed that one. Debating what I want to do after this. I think I want to do another stream or a little after party stream, but yeah, this is another one where you have such a wide area that feels like it ought to be you or like it just it's an awkward landing area and it visually comes off so weird because it's like a 15-yard wide thing tucked in the corner and visually it feels like it should be twice the width and 30 yards to the right. It's presented in such an odd way that just feels off. I don't mean to be so harsh on this course, but it's just I'm not getting this one, to be honest. Like the whole like again, it's the holes just kind of go places randomly. I'm not sure what the strategic like what the strategy of this stuff is. So it's just kind of like the okay, well, I guess I just hit it. I guess I hit it here, and then I hit it at the green, and then there's some stuff that happens in the middle, but I'm not gonna worry about that because I don't really need to. Have you played the finals yet? I have not. I've heard some decent things about it. I think I've watched Jeff and those guys play it. It's probably like I don't know if it's really my speed or not, but like it looks like a fun game. Yeah, again, this is another one of just like I don't know what all those bunkers and stuff are for. I'm just gonna hit it at the green. That's the easiest shot that I have available to me. And it's like especially on a par 5 where you kind of like you want the player to have to make a decision to go for it, like you want layups to be a viable option and there's basically no place to lay this up. The safest shot is just ripping a 3-wood at the green and then kicking in a relatively easy birdie. Let's see, is that gonna stick? Just barely. I don't know if those rocks need to be there. It's kind of the most planting you've done on a spot so far, and I feel like it's in a way that doesn't really add to this hole. I don't know. It works sometimes. I'm just not generally a fan of like rock ledges above bunkers, and this one feels a little arbitrary considering we're on the 16th hole and it's the first time you've kind of featured any features like that. Trying to get the hang of it. Yeah, it sounds fun. I'm doing weirdly well. I feel like I should not be doing this well, or it's kind of like the and I hate making this comparison. But I'll have to explain it. But I'm getting like some kind of like Rockman Dan vibes in terms of the playability of it. Um, Not in terms of like the quality of the course, but like I remember he would do stuff like he'd build all these comically narrow playing corridors and stuff that just look ridiculous and feel like they play ridiculous. And then you hit shots on it and then you shoot -10. It's like that. It's in that weird no man's land of being like trying to be really hard and then just like not quite pulling it off and then just being odd instead. Hey Troy, how's it going? So it's harder than that, but it just feels like all of the playing corridors are minuscule, and then like the golf itself is easy enough where it's like if you hit the corridors, it's trivial, and then if you miss the corridors, it's still not that bad, kind of thing. Like your greens, like with RMD, his greens would be dead flat. Like your greens are not dead flat, but it also feels like it looks really hard, and then it just kind of plays not hard, if that makes sense. You got you got a little more flying castles there. Just maybe a little off there. But yeah, well, we made it. Despite that's a very eventful scorecard, but like we ended up with a good number somehow. So yeah, there's that. I could do another one. TJ's is next on my list, and I'm pretty sure I've done a playthrough of it. I kind of want to double check and make sure that I want to double check and make sure that I've done that one before I skip it. Actually, here, Pat, you're in chat. You would be next up after him, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do yours. We'll do one more tonight, and then I'll Hey, Pat. You've noticed that no one really blows up on the course, but no one goes super low either. That makes sense. Like, there's not a lot of hazards to find. It's just a lot of nothing. So it's like you can always find some spot where you're going to get into, like, a little trouble. But, I mean, it's hard to really blow up in this game. Like, there's not... Outside of the holes being narrow and, like, missing the fairway means probably bogey, like, that's really the only hazards you're going to find on that one. But anyway. I'll cut the stream here. Pat, I'll be with yours in just a sec. But until then, we'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.